I guess the position for propaganda minister just opened up.
Sir, you can't be serious. This thing is supposed to be a soldier? I don't see how
Of course you don't. You and your soldiers can't even handle a little girl. The future is now, old man. Produce as much of it as you can.
Of course, my very Swiss leader.
Welcome to part 2 of our Mad Heidi episode. But before we go into real talk, it's time for PP, our patron pitch. This is where we let our patrons know what they can expect in their exclusive patron feed, and we also let non-patrons know what they're missing out on. Famously, if you've been with us for a while, you know that the Rocky episode is our shortest episode ever in the history of the Contrarians. It's about 30 minutes. We recorded about an hour of Mad Heidi stuff for Contrarian's Corner. It might end up being a 20-minute episode by the time I'm done cutting it. Just because how much stuff I was just struggling with during the recap. Maybe not, but that's where my head's at right now. But whatever gets cut, don't worry, it will be available in our cutting room floor segment, available to every patron from the Travoltis tier, the $1 tier, to the GAT tier, the $10 tier. Everybody gets access to the cutting room floor segments. They also get access to the bonus episodes. We put at least one bonus episode a month on the patron feed. This month, as we've been trumpeting, it's our Dancer in the Dark episode, an epic collaboration with our friends from Filmbusters, Ben, Adam, Paul, 5 minds, trying to make sense of a Lars von Trier musical. And the results, I hope, are entertaining. Now, if you want more, you get more by upgrading tiers. So if you go up to the Winonis tier, the $3 tier, then you also get our pre-recording notes. You also get access to our quick video reviews. This month, we are doing a dual quick video review of Ben Murray's favorite movie, his top movie, Glenn Ross. A group of real estate salesmen get up to no good, and a movie that's written by David Mamet, so you know the dialogue is crackling. So Alex and I watch it, talked about it, and then put it out into the world. So check that out. That'll be on our YouTube channel, and it's available to all patrons, $3 and up, as well as Contrarians After Hours. That is the spin-off show where we tell you about other things that we're watching, that we're listening to, that we're thinking about, that we're playing. Alex, what are you bringing to Contrarians After Hours this time?
Julio, I have 2 movies that I recently watched that I want to discuss. Get off my chest. One is Goon, The Last of the Enforcers, a sequel to the 2011 classic. Yes, 2011. I am comfortable referring to that movie as a classic. Sean William Scott, Liev Schreiber classic. There was a sequel from, I believe it was a straight to Netflix 2017 sequel, starring, of course, Sean William Scott, directed and written by Jay Baruchel this time, though.
Is he in the movie?
He has a part, yes. It's not as pronounced as in the first, but yeah.
They get Sabretooth to come back?
Yes, and I have thoughts.
Amazing.
It's pretty much the returning cast with the addition of Wyatt Russell, Kurt Russell's son.
Mm-hmm.
So
the new Captain America.
Really?
Well, for like 5 minutes.
Oh, I don't. Okay.
Everybody wants some. That's where you know him from.
Yeah, amongst other things. But yeah, most recently. And he's good in that. And then secondly, I'm going to be discussing The Guest List, which is a documentary about the 2003 Station nightclub fire. Do you remember this at all, Julio? There was a Great White concert at a venue in Rhode Island that they came out in their first song. They had pyro, and they definitely shouldn't have. And it caught the place on fire, and 100 people died.
That sounds like a familiar story, but that's probably because it's not, I mean, it's happened often enough. Is this like as far as casualties, is it one of the highest ones?
Oh yeah, as far as like happened enough, I think this, I don't know if it still does, but at the time it happened, it was like the worst of its kind, and it may still hold a record like that. And I know we're really desensitized to that, but I remember watching CNN like the whole day that happened. It was a really big deal. But there's a documentary from the past few years called The Guest List that was made about it, and definitely have some thoughts on that. Watched it on Tubi, and I have some frustrations to vent regarding it. So that's what you can look forward to. I'll try to find something to be positive about in between these two things, but suffice to say, I just have a lot of thoughts to share in after hours.
Sounds like a grumpy Alex Mattis for the after hours. Well, hopefully I'll be able to balance you out. I also have a doc to talk about. This one I watched as a sort of live performance. I will explain it in full in the segment, but it's called 32 Sounds, and it was this sort of special event. Our friend, patron, and colleague Eddie Strait let me know about it. It was taking place at Bass Theater, and it's a documentary, but the director was there on stage as the movie is being projected, and he is doing the narration live, and he's playing music and sound effects live. It's kind of like an interactive experience. It was very interesting. No frustrations on my end. Just very positive things to say. And it looks like there's going to be a version of this movie released on Criterion. That's what the guy said. So this is going to be my pitch to try to get you and our patrons interested in checking it out whenever it's available on physical media. And then, Alex, I'm going to tell you about something else that is fairly recent, as in it just came out, or at least as of this recording, it just came out. And that is Alex Garland's new movie, Civil War. No connection to the MCU Civil War, which was one of the greatest films of the past decade. I don't know that Alex Garland's movie is going to be that, but hopefully it's not too bad. I have tickets for it. So I will be reporting back with my experiences. I didn't watch his last movie called Men, which got destroyed by critics and audiences. But I loved Ex Machina. I really liked Annihilation. So he's got a good track record as far as I'm concerned. So we'll see what happens. This got Kirsten Dunst in the main role. Jesse Plemons shows up in the trailer. So we'll see what happens. But Civil War, 32 Sounds. And I'll be happy to hear about the guest list. And I don't know how I feel about you talking about Goon again, but we'll see. And then, if you want to be part of the patrons that tell us what to do, that elite group that controls part of the show, well, that's when you join the $5 tier, the Embreeze, or the $10 tier, the GATS, and then you just have full control. Well, as much control as we can give you over the Contrarians podcast. So go to patreon.com/Contrarian Prime, look at what we have to offer, and see how you would like to join the Contrarian supplements.
$1, $3, $5, and $10 our respective tiers, as Julio outlined. Our patron page has the chat option, which is always fun to keep up with our wonderful patrons and just kind of what's coming down the pipe on our end. And also our series that we've tackled, our different projects, be it the Lindsay Lohan career and life retrospective or the Roxina mega series that we did, the summer break trilogy that we had, and our current goals of projects once we cross the threshold of 30, 40, and 50 patrons we have as well there. So those that have made the leap already are happy they did so, and nothing but good reviews, and we thank them and love them dearly, and encourage you to do so. It's a buck, man. Take a look around. Support the Contrarian supplements. If that sounds like something up your alley, be sure to check it out.
Speaking of support, Alex, before we leap into real talk for good, another shout out, as we will be doing every episode now, to the Livestream for the Cure, livestreamforthecure.com. That's the website where you can get all the details. But the main thing you have to know right now is that if you can't be there for the entire thing, at least be there on June 1st at 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central. That's when the Contrarian segment is going to take place, the Contrarians versus Animated Disney. That's what we're doing for an hour. our goal is to reach $1,000 in donations. It's a lofty goal, but you know what? We did a little over 600 last year, so I think it's possible. I am trying to talk to people that haven't watched the live stream before. I'm trying to get them to check it out this year, so hopefully we'll have an even higher number of members of the audience on our side. But it should be fun. Next episode, I think we'll start. We'll finally reveal what our tiers are, what our rewards are for reaching certain donation goals. So that'll be part of the fun. But for now, just know it'll be us versus Disney animated. And you'll be able to participate by throwing movies at us. So June 1st, 4 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Eastern, whatever time that is on your corner of the world, just use Google to figure it out. We would love to see you there. Now, Alex, let's get into Thoughtsplotation.
Well, before we do, Julio, I guess that's a springboard from our patron pitch there, because the reason we're talking about Mad Heidi is one of our patrons.
That is correct. KT and OT, they are certified Rotten Tomatoes critics, Alex. They are actually with the enemy. They prove that we can live in harmony with those we oppose. And yes, they're patrons, and they have quotes on the Mad Heidi page. So how about I read those before they're fresh? So how about I read those before we go into the rotten quotes, and then that takes us into our actual conversation.
Let's do it.
So KT says, it stretches the imagination and the format of whatever you think is possible in a film. And OT says, cheese balls to the wall movie. It took us on a wild ride I didn't expect or anticipate. Cheese balls. We didn't see any cheese balls in the movie. Is that because that's like an American thing? Cheese balls?
Oh yeah, something fried. Yeah, that would be us.
Well, maybe for the sequel. But both of them very, very high on the movie. They actually had their anniversary show, kind of like what we do. They give away awards, and Mad Heidi was a big winner, apparently.
Nice.
Not apparently, I know for a fact because I listened to it. It happened. So yeah, they really like it. It's not like they're messing with us. Not everybody did though. So even though there's only a handful of them, there are some rotten quotes. So let's delve into those. Dennis Harvey from 48 Hills, who says it's an ersatz grindhouse movie whose 92 minutes might better have been reduced to the enticing cheese of a mock trailer in Tarantino's 2007 Grindhouse anthology. I told you,
right,
there was no escaping Tarantino. Tarantino and Grindhouse. Louisa Moore from Screen Zealots says, here's a case where the premise is far better than the finished product, which turns out to be an unfortunate example of what happens when a movie is simply trying too hard to be clever and fails.
I disagree.
You disagree? You pulled the Adam Sandler on that one?
I disagree.
And finally, Roger Moore from Movie Nation says, it sprints out of the gate for 15 minutes, spills blood and settles scores in the finale, and is as boring as Brie in the middle acts. Is Brie boring, Alex?
Brie is a bit strong for me. If you cut it with like some fruit maybe on a cracker, I can fuck with that. But Brie just by itself, yeah, it's certainly not boring. That's the whole point. It's a bit overpowering, the taste of it for me. All right, so Mad Heidi. It's a movie about cheese. I like cheese. Julio likes cheese. So,
in theory, a match made in heaven.
Yes. Mad Heidi, according to the madheidi.com website, Mad Heidi is an action-adventure exploitation spoof based on the popular children's book character Heidi and the very first Swissplotation film. Yes, this time Switzerland will be exploited. We just love the kind of movies that don't take themselves too seriously, even though making movies is a very serious business. It all started out in 2017 with a poster. Then we shot a promo teaser, started a crowdfunding campaign and merchandise shop, which allowed us to develop the script. In 2020, we launched an investment call, and eventually 538 people from 19 countries invested 2 million Swiss franc and will participate directly in the film's revenue. According to our friends at Google, 2 million Swiss franc equates to $2.2 million American. In fall 2021, the film was shot, and now in December 2022, it will finally be released. It was a long and hard yet rewarding journey. We had tons of fun along the way, together with many of our fans and investors and all the people who made this exciting film possible. Will we do it again? Hell yeah. The masterminds behind Mad Heidi are exploitation film nerds and upcoming directors Johannes Hartmann, Sandro Klopstein, as well as producer Valentin Geertert, Greutert. If I mispronounced any of those names, I do apologize. So that's the backstory right there. Very fascinating, crowdfunded. It was shot in Switzerland. For a movie that had a $2 million budget, how does it look this good? Aside from obviously having the gorgeous scenery of Switzerland, but there's clearly moments in this movie where sets are enhanced by CG or whatnot. I saw you put up on our Patreon page my review of May December that we recorded a while back, and I lambasted that movie for having a $20 million budget and looking like the absolute dog shit that it looks like. That is 10 times the budget this movie has, and this movie, it's reversed. May December looks like it should cost $2 million to make, and this looks like it should cost $20 million to make. I don't know about you. Again, they are very fortunate with the scenery they have. There's like shots of this that look like it's from the fucking Sound of Music, but it's...
Also, Alex, $9 million probably went to Natalie Portman.
I know that, Julio. Work with me here, okay? I know how these things work. That's why what was Meet Dave's budget? I have to look it up to confirm with myself right now. Meet Dave had a budget of $60 million. Come on.
And Mad Heidi looks better than it.
It looks much better than it, but Eddie Murphy got paid, what, $45 million off that? So, all right. I guess I'll start there, Julio. Visually, hit me with Mad Heidi.
It looks fine. It's
okay. Well, let me ask you this: for a movie with a $2 million budget, are you impressed with how good it looks?
Yes, but that's after the fact. That's after learning that it's a $2 million movie. You know what I mean?
I mean,
when I was watching it, I didn't know how much it cost, and I really shouldn't know. That's trivia. You know, that is. I mean, I'm being extra hard on that. The positive way of saying it is that when I was watching it, I never thought that the visuals were a problem. I felt like the visuals were matching the type of movie it was. But if we're going to be, fully honest, I also felt the same way about May December. It's like May December is not a great movie, and it has, I guess, cinematography that didn't blow me away. I think that maybe you would lower my expectations a lot by telling me how bad it looked. So when I watched it, I was like, yeah, I can see their faces. I can tell who's who. I
want to insert here that I am going to watch Mad Heidi again in my lifetime, and I don't know if I can say the same for May December.
I like that look on your face. That starry-eyed cluelessness one only finds in the Alps. Perfect.
Anyway, Mad Heidi, it looks pretty. I just don't think it looks very interesting, like visually. You know what I mean? Like, it looks good. You're right. It looks good. And the landscape is breathtaking. But there is something about, I think, the cartoonish aesthetic that I would probably find more amusing or more compelling, more engaging if it was in favor of a story that I was more invested in. But as it was just kind of like shiny things that didn't really hold my attention.
I was wondering how long it was going to take for you to give me a window to segue into that. Did you like this? Did you dislike this? Or are you just kind of, this isn't for me, meh type thought? I
kind of alluded it at the beginning of the patron pitch, but basically I don't think I know, I hope that listeners can't tell how much of a struggle Contrarian's Corner was for me, because I had so little to say about the movie. Because
there's not much here, and that's intentionally so. But
right. But even
this is why we can, time to time, and we always talk about this, like with like our whole gimmick of our podcast and shit. When you run into a movie like this, it's I watch when I was watching this, I was having so much fun, but then I would have to check myself and be like, fuck, how are we going to talk about this? Like,
right.
how is this going to apply to what we usually try to do as far as like facetiously breaking down a movie, because this movie's already just layered in sarcasm. Like, it's just kind of hard to dissect in a way we typically do.
Yes. It took me back to the Greener Grass episode, which I actually listened to this morning in preparation, maybe to get some inspiration out of that, because it was a similar experience in the sense that I remember watching that movie and thinking, oh man, it's kind of Contrarian's proof, because it's already pretty ridiculous. And so how are we going to be silly about it when it's already almost at peak silliness? And it doesn't help that we were originally going to record last week, so I watched it last week, and I wasn't going to watch it again. This is my May, December. I was like, no, once is enough. So I was like, all right, I think I have enough notes, and the internet's going to be there to help me, and Alex will be there. So I think that we can put it together. And Alex, this is, with respect to Katie, OT, the people behind the movie, anybody, all the people that got it to 80-something% tomato meter, I think this was harder for me to watch than No Holds Barred. That's how much I struggled with it. And I think part of it is that with No Holds Barred, as much as I hated it, I was like, it's okay to hate this. It's even the people that like this movie know it's a bad movie. But with this, I was like, I know that there is a solid case to be made for why this movie is the way it is, and for why this movie, would be considered good and entertaining to some people. I'm just not one of them. So it was a slog. There was nothing. And it's the same, it was like, there's no variation. So it hits those notes at the beginning, and then it's just the same for 90 minutes. So there's no hope. Like, I knew that it wasn't going to get any better. I knew that it wasn't going to get more clever or more spectacular or more subversive. It's just, it wears its heart on its sleeve, and it's there from the beginning, from minute one. So it was a really rough watch. And I'm going to be fair in this, as we discuss it here, because you're right. It's, something like the way it looks. It's like, you can't deny that it looks good, but that doesn't mean that it's gonna, that can work in different ways depending on how everything else is working for you. So I had a really hard time with it. I'm glad that you didn't, because if you had, then we would be in a lot of trouble. It was, I could sense, that you had an affection for what it was trying to do, even through Contrarian's Corner, and so that helped me also get through it. I have a question before we go. Were you aware of the fact that it was based on Heidi, the children's book?
No, that's hilarious to me, though.
Yeah, I didn't know either, even though I knew about the book, and I knew about the animated show that they made about it, who knows when, sometime in the 80s. I just remember seeing it when I was a kid. I didn't know that this was based on it until I was looking into, some
There's
information.
a Shirley Temple movie about it, right?
Yes. We shall discuss that on our warm-up video. So check out our YouTube channel for that. But I don't want to get too in the weeds with the OG Heidi, but I just, knowing that it's, once I read this,
I don't think you have to be familiar with that character from the late 1800s to kind of know what this movie's going for.
Yeah, but it's, as far as the joke itself of like, oh, we're gonna make the Heidi a badass exploitation heroine, there's not a whole lot. Like, look at the plot, right? Like, the plot of the novel, it's just Heidi is a novel about the events in the life of a 5-year-old girl in her paternal grandfather's care in the Swiss Alps. It is written as a book for children and those who love children. And then at some point, she travels to the city. She's taken to Frankfurt to be a hired lady's companion to a wealthy girl named Clara Sisseman, who is unable to walk and regarded as an invalid. That's it. There's more in the story, but it has nothing to do with what we watched with Mad Heidi. But the idea that there's this girl, she has a grandpa, and then she befriends another girl named Clara. That's it. But I was thinking, at first, I'm like, oh, well, maybe there's just some stuff that went over my head that if you've read the novel, then there's a lot of Easter eggs, a lot of chainsaws, Heidi chainsaws. I don't think that's the case, but those of you who have read the book or watched any of the many adaptations, let us know. See if there's something else that I'm missing. But no, I think that what I'm missing, Alex, and I look forward to you illuminating. You
have no appetite for these. This is something we come across all the time. It's like, that's why when we do find like a movie that's kind of dumb fun that you like, I'm like, holy shit, it's me with Rushmore, with how everything Wes Anderson's made is by and large not for me, but I was able to find something of his that I really like. But I texted you that. And also to shed a little insight on that, Julio watched it last week because we were going to record this last week. And I was packing up for vacation, and I had a family thing going on also. And I started this, and I was in a stressed mood, and I got 30 minutes into it, and I texted Julio. I was like, hey, I'm not in any mood to watch this right now. Can we push this back? And I think I told you, but in my mind, it was like, I know I can like this, but the mindset I'm watching it in right now is just stressing me out because it's so like ridiculous and violent. And today I was just chill as fuck, and I watched it. It was like, fuck yeah, dude. I was very glad that I didn't force myself to go through it, because I think I would have had, I would have had a much different experience. It would not be as high on it as I am now. Again, I have all these tabs pulled up. So one thing I want to cover before I forget is I'm positive the teaser for the next movie at the end was just like a joke.
Heidi and Clara will return in Heidi and Clara.
The last Instagram post for Mad Heidi was in December of 2022. The website, I was trying to see if there was any crowdfunding attempts for the trailer. I think that was just kind of a goof, a joke, and a way of closing it on kind of a wink and a nod. But who knows? Maybe they'll try it again at some point in time.
I mean, that would be par for the course as far as the genre.
Everything else in this movie. Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm not, I mean, I was gonna say, I'm not familiar with the exploitation genre, and that is true in the sense that I don't even look for it. I could go down that rabbit hole, but I don't want to, because it's generally not something that I find appealing. And we can try to keep Tarantino out of the conversation, but I think it's the point of reference that is most accessible for both of us. As far as like something we can point to that we are both very familiar with. We're familiar with his career. We're familiar with the things that he likes to pay tribute to, and things that he cites as inspiration. And this is the kind of shit that he, lives for. And that's why he made Grindhouse. But that is an aspect of him as a filmmaker that I can never vibe with. I can be like, oh, that's cool that he likes that, but that's not for me. Like, that's when he praises Green Lantern, I was like, oh, that's fine. That's just him. But yeah, I'm not on the same page. So yeah, he would love Mad Heidi, I'm sure, or at the very least, very much understand what they were going for, and catch every little thing that these people that are exploitation lovers, like, that they've worked it in. But I just watch, and it's just this really, it's not dumb. It's just very, it's just like a very obvious action comedy. That's what it feels like, It also reminded me of when I watched the Velocipaster. Which, have you seen it, or have I only complained to you about it?
No, yeah, I haven't seen it.
So The Velocipaster, like, also much beloved by people who really managed to engage with it on its level. And I tried, and I couldn't, because that movie doesn't take itself seriously. And, maybe I know that I can enjoy movies that don't take themselves seriously, but for the most part, I think that there's a breaking point.
This is a big ask. Like, there's movies that don't take themselves too seriously, and there's something like this that shoots itself into the sun as far as like that, to the extreme of that goes. And you did a good job of masking your feelings towards it, because I was kind of like, did he like this? Because, like I said, I was watching this, I'm like, this is not a Julio Oliveira movie at all.
I'm trying to think of, what I liked, and I kind of alluded to it in Contrarian's Corner. Over time, Casper Van Diem won me over. At first, I was just like, it's the guy from Starship Troopers, and that was the only thing I could think of whenever he was on screen. I was like, that's weird. Not what I expected, but as far as, who would turn up in this movie?
Yeah.
But really, I think that he was the most consistent as far as he wasn't making me cringe ever. And every now and then he would have like a funny line, and I think that he was commanding the screen as the bad guy, in a way that, he's being cartoonish, but somehow not as cartoonish as the other people. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's why I ended up liking him.
What'd you think about Heidi, Alice Lucy?
Blank slate. That was my, like, she can do the action stuff. She has the presence, but this is not her. It's just like the movie. The movie doesn't give her anything, and I know that that's probably, that's part of the genre. You don't need to have any sort of, it's not even that she doesn't have a psychology, because it's kind of a revenge movie and she has a tragic backstory, but she's just a very generic action heroine, which again is what the story demands, I guess. But I was just like, I don't care. I felt like they used all the brain cells went to the cheese puns, the cheese jokes and cheese gags, and then there was nothing left for just a regular. Like, I thought the dialogue was really bad, or not bad, but just very uninteresting.
You are accurate of like this movie. If that was how you genuinely felt about it, when the reveals just kept getting more and more ridiculous, it is like, why not?
Yeah, and that is kind of how I felt with Greener Grass. I have that fresh in my mind because, like I said, I listened to that episode, but it was one of those things.
This is better than Greener Grass. Come on now.
Greener Grass, I had a lot of issues with. We both did, but I found it funnier. Like, there were moments of brilliance in Greener Grass.
You're wrong, but there
is there anything in Mad Heidi as funny as Beck Bennett and all the stuff with the pool?
Drinking the pool water. That's immediately what I thought. That shot where it's like the pan down where he's swimming in the pool, drinking it all. Yep. That shit's so funny.
Or the guy, whatever the other guy's name is, in the background taking all the change out of his pockets.
Knorr getting impaled on the Swiss flag and then just like coughing for 30 seconds. That's another thing. You don't have the same capacity for like and this is a fault with me, not with you, mind you. You are not tickled by excessive violence. We enjoy movies that have excessive violence in them, but it's not as funny to you as it is to me. And if that's not like something that you find humorous or, entertaining to a certain extent, then a movie like this also that, Jesus, half the gags in this are just acts of extreme violence, then you're not repulsed by it. But
No.
I've watched enough movies with you and done this long enough with you that I know you just kind of sit there with your arms folded like, okay, what's next?
Yeah, violence as a punchline doesn't usually work with me. I mean, it can. I don't know why, but
ending of Observe and Report.
Yeah, that is funny.
Oh, yeah.
When he shoots a guy, yeah, but it's so. I think you need to be a little more transgressive than what they're doing here. Here is just like, I don't think there's anything clever about that guy getting impaled on the flag. It's very obvious. No, what I was going to say is, what fucking movie? Due Date, when Downey Jr. punches a kid. Like, that is hilarious.
You've referenced that numerous times in our history. Someone needs to start a tally.
Yes, but it's because it's so good. That movie is not even that good, but Robert Downey Jr. punching that kid is just so great, and it's the way he does it, and because you don't think that it's going to happen, that's a movie wouldn't allow a kid to get punched by an adult, but it happens, and it's great. Hulk punching Thor, the third act of Avengers. That's funny. And there's violence.
You're losing me now.
I'm gonna enjoy this very much. It's party time, bitch.
I did two things when I was preparing for this. I wrote a bunch of cheeses that I could think of. And then I also, as I was watching the movie and writing down my notes, anytime that I thought of a movie that was kind of in the ballpark of this, I would write it down, whether I thought it was better or worse. So the first barrage is a Velocipaster, Greener Grass, Wet Hot American Summer, Freak Dance, Fateful Findings. Obviously, different levels of like nonsensical humor.
Yeah, I was getting offended at putting Wet Hot American Summer and Fateful Findings in the same category.
Yes. I mean, Fateful Findings is not even trying to be funny, but it's just, it's nonsense, right? And it was
I don't know. Here comes Ryan. Well, what you don't understand is...
Wet Hot American Summer works so well. Do we have, is there like any of, are there any like violent punchlines in the movie? I can't think of any.
No, not in that one. There in David Wayne's work in general, there's that movie They Came Together. One of the funniest moments in the whole movie. It's very similar to Observe and Report that happens there. But yeah, Wet Hot American Summer, I don't think. No, that's not true. Paul Rudd like kills numerous kids in that movie.
I guess so, but you don't see it happen. So Matt Heidi would just show you the deaths in gory detail.
Blood just spurting everywhere.
Yeah. Freak Dance, I don't know if it's available anywhere anymore, but I'm sure if I haven't told you about it, Eddie must have told you about it because we watched that movie at the Austin Film Festival so many years ago. And
I remember the name.
Yeah, it's like a musical with I think most of the cast is from the Upright Citizens Brigade? Is that's okay. The troupe?
Yeah.
Amy Poehler has a role, and it's nonsense. But you know what Matt Heidi does with gore and cheese, they do with like dance numbers, and so it's very silly. But I remember having a good time. And then Greener Grass. I mean, we kind of like already talked about it, but it was also. That movie, at least, like I said, it made me laugh. Then I have the next set says, Your Highness, Lego Movie, Mel Brooks.
Jesus.
Grasping at straws, Alex. I was just trying to kind of zone in on what works and what doesn't work. Have you seen Your Highness?
No, I remember people scared me off of it because I was looking forward to it and was told it was not good.
Yeah, it's not. I finally watched it. I had a on the background, I don't know, sometime when I was editing or something, and eventually I was like, all right, let's just watch this to see how bad it is. It's not as bad as I expected it to be, just based on the reactions to it, and I thought the trailer looked pretty bad, but it's also not good. But it's one of those, it's a movie that doesn't take itself seriously. And you can probably tell that from the poster.
Oh, yeah.
Danny McBride is a medieval knight standing next to scantily clad Natalie Portman. It's very silly. The Lego Movie, my feelings about the Lego Movie. Talk about a comedy that just doesn't make me laugh.
Lord Miller, your favorite screenwriters in the game?
I know. Hey, they did Into the Spider-Verse, so sometimes it works. And then Mel Brooks, I mean, we've never talked about Mel Brooks on this show, but, that type of comedy also, it could be, it's just nonsense. It's a lot of nonsense. But I find him really funny. And I think his delivery is really good.
Yeah. I wasn't sure where you were going with that. And I was like, is Julio about to lose all of our listeners and credibility right now?
No. I mean, like I said, I like the Wet Hot American Summer, so I'm not just listing things that don't work for me. I'm just listing things that are, I think, on the periphery of this. Just, what happens when a comedy is just kind of like out there. What makes it work for me and what makes it not work. And then the last, the last two things I listed were Tank Girl and Howard the Duck. Which are like two extremes, but also just ridiculousness. But one I didn't care for, and the other one I kind of loved. It somewhere, in this group, there sits Mad Heidi, and it's just not. It just didn't connect with me. Did you get anything out of it other than it's just fun to see them be this violent and this over the top?
I thought it was a funny movie, and it was a lot of fun to watch. It was an easy watch. It went by quickly. It was, I thought, a well-crafted tale of, revenge and in all the most cliche ways, montages, training montages, and the local yokels forming a gang to come get revenge on their oppressors and shit like that. And, it's not Oppenheimer, but it's a joy to watch. And even that Oppenheimer, what's something more like intellectually, like out there? What's a good? I'm just trying to picture the movies on my Criterion shelf right now, so I can sound real smart.
That Godard movie, Weekend. Yeah, it's certainly not Godard. I'll say that much for this, but I had a good time, and I thought it was well crafted for what it was. I did a double feature with this and another movie that's coming soon to our Patreon called What Keeps You Alive, and I thoroughly enjoyed this, and it's because it more so than the other one, and you'll have to hop on our Patreon to find out my feelings on What Keeps You Alive, but it's because that movie tries to do things to make sense of the characters, and all they do is make the characters end up looking kind of stupid. And this is just like, make everyone the most dramatic versions of that character and just go with it. Hour and a half flies by. I love the way it looked. Like I said, the story is paint by numbers, but intentionally so. The focus of this movie is the ridiculous comedy and the intense, over-the-top violence and the homage, the love letter to the grindhouse and the exploitation movies of the day. And, those aren't by any means something that I'm overly fascinated with. That, we talk about that with Dolomite. That's, one of the most legendary exploitation movies of all time. And it was just kind of like, okay, I get it, but the acting's kind of lacking. And listen to our episode. We talk about it in there. With this, it's, if I wanted to call out some of the acting lacking, I'm sure I could, because it's there, but it just moved so fast and kept me entertained throughout. So I quite enjoyed it. I was looking on their website. They got a pretty badass looking Blu-ray version of it that I might put some thought to buying. My God, you really went for it, which I'm glad. It makes it an easier episode, I think, to produce. Because if you were as negative on it as I am, I would feel bad. Because it's not Hereditary. You know what I mean? Like, it's so much easier to be negative about that movie because that movie, Ari Aster, yeah, but also because Ari Aster and everybody involved, like they don't care. They got it made. But I appreciate that the fact that this movie exists and that it was how it was made, and it was a grassroots project, and a lot of people had a vision and they got it together and they made it happen. And well, it was never going to be a movie for me, so that's fine.
To me, like the final shot or one of the final shots just kind of encapsulated when they're walking away from that building that's blowing up, and like Clara's there in a wheelchair, and she has like an IV bag hooked up to her, and like one of the women with them is carrying a baby, and this explosion is so comically oversized in the background, and they're all still just like walking in slow motion. The last shot, of course, is when they bust out the minigun, and it's just like, of fucking course this is how it goes. you cannot watch these movies all the time. You cannot make movies like these all the time. I mean, you can, but you can't. That doesn't mean you have to expect me to enjoy it and praise it every time. And with dumb, bad, loud movies, bad in quotations, it's honestly just how it hits me. And this worked. Because as you know, most recently, there's 2 movies called Kill Bill Volumes 1 and Volume 2 that I was not as high on as I am on this. And those are movies that Tarantino would tell you are a love letter to, the bygone era of the Kung Fu movies, the grindhouse, the exploitation films. And
so that's a good question to ask you. What is it that why is this more appealing than what Tarantino did? Is it the shorter runtime? Is it the...
That's a big part of it.
Okay.
Shorter runtime. Look, when you start by telling me, yeah, it's 1940s Germany, but it's cheese is like the thing. I'm like, let's fucking go, man. Like that,
but it doesn't make any sense. I know this is my fault, but why cheese? Okay, I get it because it's Switzerland, but it doesn't. Like, I don't think I was articulate enough in Contrarian's Corner about this, and I can't be articulate enough now because I guess I still haven't wrapped my head around just how it doesn't make any sense. Like it makes sense in this, as in I understand it, but it doesn't. It's just so arbitrary. You know what I mean? Like I know it's my fault because I'm trying to apply logic and to it. Like, why cheese? Because it's Switzerland. Why Switzerland? Because that's where they made the movie. I mean, and why Nazis? Because that's what the story requires. That's that's the trope for when you're looking for this type of dictatorship, this type of oppressive regime. So I get it, but I just don't think it works. I mean, obviously it works for you and for everybody else.
But why a monkey in a hotel? Because Dunstan checked in,
because you brought up your QVR and man, mine it's getting posted tonight as we're recording this, so I know it'll be out when this episode drops. So you did that movie, I did Deep Murder. And speaking of movies that don't take themselves seriously, I mean, that is like a comedy that is very much along the lines of the things that I was listing a little bit ago. And not to spoil too much, you have to watch the video, but the idea is that there's this porno movie and a murder happens in the porno movie. So it's not that they're shooting a porno and the murder happens in the set, but rather that in the world of a porno movie, what happens if suddenly somebody dies, somebody's murdered, and then the characters of the porno movie have to figure out who the killer is because they're all trapped in this house with somebody that's murdering them. But they're porno movie characters, so they act like porno movie characters, and so the dialogue is very stupid in a very sexually charged way, and they're all porno stereotypes. There's the sexy babysitter and the cheating wife and the distracted husband. I was laughing a lot. It was, even though it's very low budget and it's very it doesn't take itself seriously the way that this movie doesn't take itself seriously and so on. I guess, it's more about, it's a murder mystery. It's not an action movie. Maybe that's also something that engaged me more than this. But that movie, as kind of like dumb as it is and as just out there as it is, the things that tie that movie together make sense, for me. When it's finally explained, as much as you can explain the motives behind the murders, yeah, that tracks. I can't fit cheese in World War II. and the thing that happened, I just can't. It's square peg, round hole, whatever you want to say. But I am fully aware that that's my shortcomings, so to speak, not the movies.
It's your cross to bear.
Yeah.
Okay, to kind of bring it home here and referencing a recent movie we did that I also fucking was over the moon about and you were very, very down on, was Ricochet. And that is a classic 90s, just absolutely over the top action film that doesn't take itself seriously, but still has a storyline that you can kind of okay. Whereas this is just, like you said, a movie like this has you, Julio, checked out in the first 2 minutes of the movie. You're like, okay, what the fuck? Is there anywhere in between this and something like Ricochet where you could find yourself enjoying it? Or is it just like you need at least some sensibility, some sense of sanity to cling your teeth into, to sink your teeth into, I should say?
It's not in between, Alex. It's further ahead. Like, you start with Mad Heidi, which makes absolutely no sense. It's not even trying. You move up to Ricochet, which has at least a plot I understand. I don't think it works, but I understand the plot. And then eventually you graduate to something else that makes sense while still being silly and over the top. But I mean,
like, do you like Speed? I can't remember if you like Speed.
Yeah,
we did that.
We did
years
on the show,
ago,
and I loved it.
Yeah.
It was, I mean, I liked it a lot. Love is like a very strong word.
So Speed would be like the end game of this type of shit for you,
dude. I mean, I don't even know how you compare them, except that yes, as a scale, you can. I mean, Speed makes so much sense.
I'm sorry, I wasn't referencing Endgame, the movie. I was just saying, like, the goal for a dumb action movie for you would be something like Speed, not the scale starts at Mad Heidi, and then you hit Ricochet, and you eventually get to Speed and Julio's, and like, okay, finally, I can kind of settle in here.
Right, but I'm sure there's like so many steps in between Ricochet and Speed. You know what I mean? Because that's a big leap.
Not really.
Dude,
Ricochet's fucking awesome.
No. But I'm talking about like things that make sense. Like you only have to buy one thing in Speed, I think, like the one big ask, and that is the conceit that the bus, if it slows down under 50 miles an hour or whatever, that is just too much. They're going to explode. Like, that's the thing where you're like, how? But you give it that, and then everything else falls into place. I don't have that with Ricochet, because Ricochet just kind of stops caring, halfway after Denzel gets kidnapped. Then that movie abandons reality, and then going further back, Matt Heidi's never interested in that. Matt Heidi's just like, all right, let's go to the next joke, let's go to the next action set piece.
Okay, so you busted out a pretty big gun. You put it on the table in the beginning, and it was you cocked the lever back, and you compared this to No Holds Barred.
Yep,
and that's like in your bottom tier of movies we've ever covered.
Yes.
So what is the closing thought on the comparison there? Do you dislike this more than No Holds Barred?
No. Because I was talking specifically about the experience of watching it, which I know it's a big part of how I end up rating it and all that, right? But I can appreciate what Matt Heidi's doing in a way that I like. The choices that they made while making No Holds Barred are things that I just find wrong. And with Matt Heidi, it's just like, oh, I mean, it's not for me. I understand why people like it, but like Dookie is never going to to be something that I go like, oh, I get it. I get why you like it, But here, the over the top violence and the silly cheese stuff, like, yeah, I know that there's a market for that. I mean, clearly there's a market also for the stuff in No Holds Barred, but it's kind of
I'm not sure about that. I think Vince McMahon and Hulk Hogan are the market for that movie. But
well, but it's what I what I said at the beginning. That's a movie that even if you like it, you like it knowing that it's a bad movie. Like, people do appreciate it. They just go like, yeah, this is a bad movie, but it's so much fun to watch. It's
still yet to meet someone who actually likes that movie and doesn't just watch it out of like, oh, look at this. Which this, I guess, bringing it back to this would be different. And it relieves me to hear you say that this is a better movie, because it most certainly is.
All right, get all the women. Let's get the hell out of here.
I enjoyed it. I gave it 3.5 stars on my Letterboxd review, which will translate maybe like a B-. My sister watched it alongside me, and when it was over, she said, I quite enjoyed that. And so it's...
was she pumping her fist for another great female action hero to stand alongside Ripley and Sarah Connor?
Yeah, that was it. I think the thing she might have laughed hardest at was the Heidi and Clara will return in Heidi and Clara. And can confirm, I consulted the IMDb trivia section. I did, in fact, hear a Wilhelm scream. So I at least can point those out in movies. All right. So, Julio, what is your rating on this?
I had to look it up just so that I could rest easy. I gave No Holds Barred half a star. So really, this was never going to be half a star. But when I rate a movie, a lot of it is the experience of watching it. So, I mean, I can't...
Sorry to cut you off again, Julio, but real quick, this is kind of my closing question to you. No Holds Barred is a bad movie any way you look at it.
Yes.
Do you watch this movie and say, if I liked this, how do I word this? If you watch this, do you say, this is good for what it is, but this isn't a movie for me? Or do you just think it's a bad movie?
No, the first one, definitely. But knowing that doesn't make it any easier to watch. You know what I mean?
No. I know, and that's I'm asking what your score is, and that's like what I'm curious about. It's just you really threw me a loop with the No Holds Barred thing, because there's such it's me with Wes Anderson, and like I watch that and I'm like, I know like this acting is good, and for what people want from this is good. It's just not for me.
Yeah.
No Holds Barred, Hancock. You watch movies like that, and you're like, no, this is bad. And anyone who thinks this is good, there needs to be a conversation about revoking their ability to vote. And with this, was kind of my question, and you answered that.
Yeah, no. But in the end, okay, ultimately, No Holds Barred gets half a star. Mad Heidi gets a full star over that, so 1.5.
We'll take it.
I will not be pitching in for the next crowdfunding, but I will wish them all the luck, and I will share the link.
Speaking of which, how'd you watch it? It was $1.99 to rent on Amazon. That's how I watched it.
Yep. If it hadn't been so cheap to rent, I would have bought it, because I know at some point I'm going to have to rent it again just to pull the clips. But yeah, $1.99, I was like, yeah, no brainer. But that's also why I was like, I need to finish this movie now.
All right. KT and OT, that was Mad Heidi. The conversation went places I don't think anyone could have predicted. I hope you feel you got your coverage worth on this one. Julio, what's next?
Alex, what's next is the beginning of our summer event. Get your neck brace out, because the whiplash of this one is going to be brutal. It's just going to be very, very violent. As violent as Mad Heidi. Going from Swissplotation, Thoughtsplotation, to one of the most revered movies in Rotten Tomatoes, apparently, 98%. We're going to start our... Look, this is the title I landed on as far as what we're going to call this summer event, but it's pretty long, because we're going to be tackling the filmographies of two directors, Peter Bogdanovich and PJ Hogan. So we're going to be talking about Bogdanov films and PJ parties.
Very well.
So quick rundown of our summer slate. And those of you who are patrons who checked the chat, I actually posted a screenshot of the spreadsheet. So, I mean, this is dropping at the end of April, but you patrons got to see it at the very beginning of April, and hopefully are as excited about it as we are. But we're going to start with The Last Picture Show. That's a Bogdanov film. Then Muriel's Wedding, which is Toni Collette's fifth turn at the bat here at Contrarians. That's a PJ party. Nickelodeon is a Bogdanov film. Not the TV channel. It's a movie. My Best Friend's Wedding, Julia Roberts' Return, PJ party. Illegally Yours, Bogdanov film, 0% on Rotten Tomatoes, Alex.
My God.
Unconditional Love, it's a PJ party. Noise is Off with the great John Ritter. It's a Bogdanov film. Peter Pan, PJ party. That's the live action Peter Pan. Not the most recent, but it was the one from 2003.
Okay.
The Cat's Meow with Kirsten Dunst, Bogdanov film. Confessions of a Shopaholic, Isla Fisher, PJ party. She's Funny That Way, Bogdanov film. I think that's his last movie. And then PJ party, Mental, also Toni Collette. Toni Collette's got to be at the Contrarians 3 times in 2024 alone. That's the most recent PJ Hogan movie as well. So that's the summer. Don't worry. I mean, we'll keep refreshing your mind as far as what the movies are coming up. But it's been a while since we've tackled a director, for a long stretch of time, like consecutive episodes, and now we're going to do 2 at once. So should be fun. Alex, I don't know how many of these movies you've seen, but I'm going to guess probably 1 or 2 at most.
There's a few in there. I'll have to read back over the list. I was just kind of taking mental tallies when you were listing them, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yep. So coming up next, 98%. It was at some point, it was 100% of the tomato meter. The Last Picture Show is the movie that put Bogdanovich on the map. We're going to start with that. But until then,
I guess we have no choice but to just eat some cheese, Julio. Pass the time.
We have no choice but to rest in cheese.
Rest in cheese, bitch.
Did you laugh when that line came up?
Of course.
Yeah, I rolled my eyes. That just shows the difference between the two of us.
All right, Julio, let's get out of here.
Let's get out of here.
Welcome to our end credits.
Or as we usually call them, our perennial plugs.
We start off by giving thanks to the Festive Years who provide our opening and closing tracks. They kick us off with Last Stand and take us home with Summer of 99. Be sure to head over to thefestiveyears.com for any and all Festive Years needs.
Our friend and fellow podcaster Hans Rothgieser is the man behind our logo and all the art you see related to our show. Reach out to him and let him know how much you like that little tomato. His email address is mildemonios@hotmail.com and his website is mildemonios.pe. That's MILDEMONIOS. You can also check out his podcast Nación Combi about Peruvian current affairs and Marginal about economy. Hans, thank you for all your support.
For those interested in the regularly absurd world of professional wrestling, Joe and the boys over at latenightgrin.com have you covered. Tell them the Contrarian sent you.
And we like to close with special thanks to our social media team of Zoe Perez and Coriari. Each of the social media accounts we mentioned in the introduction look as good as they do because of their work.
So that'll do it for this episode of The Contrarians, where we're right and you're wrong, and we will catch you next time.
How much money he made together, who knows? Just promise me you'll